It's Wednesday, September 30. This is the news on PBCJ. I'm Carol Francis. The National Identification and Registration Policy, which includes the introduction of a National Identification System, or NIDS, is squarely back on the table for the new parliamentary year. Cabinet is currently reviewing the new NIDS bill. Prime Minister Andrew Holness updated Parliament on Tuesday. We have more in this report.
Prime Minister Holness says substantial changes were made to the original policy, which was struck down by the Supreme Court after being passed in the House of Representatives in 2017.
Madam Speaker, in April of this year, a significant landmark was achieved when Cabinet approved the new voluntary National Identification and Registration Policy. Substantial changes, as reflected in the new policy, include the voluntary enrollment under the NIDS and the use of minimum biometrics, which are fingerprint, facial image, and manual signature.
This follows the significant landmark reached in April when the Cabinet approved the draft for a new voluntary National Identification and Registration Policy. It includes the introduction of a National Identification System, NIDS.
This is why this administration is moving with speed and alacrity to establish the National Identification System. By implementing a voluntary system to manage the life cycles of citizens and residents' digital identities, the NIDS will address two significant challenges that we currently face: how to verify and authenticate users digitally and securely, and how to sign documents digitally. The NIDS will create immense economic value for both individuals and institutions. For individuals, it will enable increased use of financial services, improved access to employment, and time and cost savings. For institutions in both government and the private sector, it will provide cost savings, reduced fraud, increased sales of goods and services, and improved labor productivity. For the country as a whole, NIDS will create economic value by enabling greater formalization of economic flows, promoting higher inclusion of individuals in a range of services, and allowing incremental digitization of sensitive interactions that require high levels of trust.
Mr. Holness says the bill is being completed and is being reviewed by the NIDS Policy Committee and the Legislation Committee, which is a subcommittee of the Cabinet. He hopes it will be passed by year end.
We intend to have the bill through the Legislative Committee before the end of October. The bill will come back to this House, and out of an abundance of caution, I can state here that it will go to a joint select committee, so that there is no opportunity for unnecessary delays, and that if there are issues that arise in the traditional way, we deal with it in the committee. And the public can have their say.
The Prime Minister said the NIDS bill represents a new digital paradigm. He says the country needs to become a digital society with digital identification, or digital ID, for every citizen of Jamaica, through which the citizen can be authenticated by a digital channel. For the news on PBCJ, I am Marlon Samuels.
The Education Minister, Favour Williams, is encouraging students to formally report any discrepancies with the CSEC or CAPE exam results administered this year. The advice follows reports of widespread anomalies concerning thousands of grades returned to students. Simone Absalom tells us more.
Rather than posting it on social media, you have a formal course of action that you can take. Take the appeal to the Overseas Examination Council. They will gather all these appeals. They will aggregate them and take them to the Ministry of Education. We will, as the ministry, be in communication with CFC to present and to argue the case for our students.
Minister Williams says a meeting has been set with the Caribbean Examinations Council, Jamaica, to further discuss alleged exams discrepancies. The meeting is scheduled to be held within the coming days.
Normally, you have three segments to the examination process. You have a multiple choice, short essay, and you have the school-based assessment. This year, because school was upended, CSEC decided to only do the multiple choice and the school-based assessment.
Chairman of the Barbados-based examining body, Sir Hilary Beckles, says an independent review team is expected to begin work shortly on reports regarding the issue. In light of the novel coronavirus pandemic, CXC made changes to how exams were administered. Students were instead assessed using their Paper 1 multiple choice grades, along with grades from their school-based assessments, SBAs. The CXC chairman says based on the changes, the concerns were expected. For the news on PBCJ, I'm Simone Absalom.
As Jamaica continues to experience a wave of COVID-19 cases and deaths, we get the latest update from the Health and Wellness Ministry. Melvin Pennant has the details.
As at Wednesday morning, Jamaica's COVID-19 death toll stands at 107. On Tuesday, 6 deaths related to the novel coronavirus COVID-19 were reported. According to the Ministry of Health and Wellness, the latest mortalities are a 59-year-old female from St. Catherine, a 77-year-old male from St. Elizabeth, a 59-year-old male from Kingston and St. Andrew, a 70-year-old male from Kingston and St. Andrew, a 52-year-old male from St. Catherine, a 54-year-old female from St. Catherine, and a 28-year-old male from St. Catherine. 2 of the deaths were previously listed as being under investigation. 74 new COVID-19 positive cases were also reported over the past 24 hours. The total case number is now 6,482. 97 recoveries were recorded over the past 24 hours, pushing that total to 1,867. The active number of cases on the island is now 4,419. It also disclosed that there are 27 moderately ill and 13 critically ill patients. A total of 137 persons infected with the virus are currently hospitalized, while 11 persons are quarantined in a government facility. 20,707 are quarantined at home. At this time, there are 480 imported cases. 390 cases of local transmission, while 802 are contacts of confirmed cases. 236 cases are associated with the St. Catherine workplace cluster, and 4,574 cases are under investigation. Melvin Pennant, PBCJ News.
The government is working to strengthen infection prevention to reduce the spread of COVID-19. Speaking during a public education activity on COVID-19 safety protocols in downtown Kingston, Health and Wellness Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton says the government is continuing to implement the necessary control interventions.
We are intervening to try and control the numbers. I think the team on the ground have been having some impact, but I can fully understand why Jamaicans would be concerned because of the deaths and because of the number of positives. We have to maintain the underground presence, which is why the community health aides are so important. We have to maintain the messaging around persons taking on the responsibility to wear the masks, the sanitize and so on. And while we do that, we have to prepare the hospital system to treat with persons who are so affected.
According to Dr. Tufton, adjustments are being made to respond to the community spread of the virus.
That's an ongoing process that the Cabinet assesses periodically and makes decisions on. And if there is a need for that outside of what we have now, which are the curfew hours, then I am sure we will announce that in due course. But right now, what is absolutely critical is that we follow the protocols and that the team is on the ground working, providing information, personalizing the information, and trying to get Jamaicans to comply with what is important in their own interests.
The Ministry of Health and Wellness's public education campaign includes distributing masks, sanitizers, and education materials on safety measures to reduce the risk of contracting and spreading COVID-19. The government will resume the chairmanship of the Public Affairs House of Representatives Public Administration and Appropriations Committee, PAAC, fresh into their second term. The Andrew Holness administration signaled its intention so to do at Tuesday's sitting of the House of Representatives at the Jamaica Conference Center. The opposition members were not happy with this development.
The practice of having opposition persons appointed as chairman of these sessional committees, it was never enshrined in law. The standing orders were never amended to make it a permanent feature of the law, but it was followed for successive administrations. And now, in a situation where the governing party is so dominant in Parliament, and in situations where the opposition on some committees will have one member, many of them will have two, and I think in 3 of them will have 3 members. The government side will have 10 sometimes, 8 sometimes, 9 sometimes. The dominance of the process by the government side is not in keeping with the spirit of Bruce Golding's enlightened position, and the committees will not function, I think, in accordance with their best practice, which is to make them vigilant oversight bodies.
I am a bit disappointed that when we are supposed to be improving, developing the democracy, ensuring that the oversight, that when I heard the Prime Minister spoke about integrity and transparency in here, I said, boy, there is some hope. This is a retrograde step. This is a retrograde step. This is a blatant abuse of power.
The opposition will retain chairmanship of the Public Accounts Committee. Prime Minister Andrew Holness gave the rationale for the decision.
The opposition in the last session of Parliament found it possible, with limited space, no special room dedicated for holding PAC meetings, but they found it necessary to allocate all their time to the PAAC and sometime to the PAC. No time to the Economy and Production Committee, no time for the Infrastructure Committee, no time for the Human Resources Committee. Why? Why is it? Is it just so that we can... You had your chance to speak, then.
Please, members.
Now,
Prime Ministers.
by the very argument that somehow oversight is defeated because of limited space, by the opposition not calling the committee meetings, not seeing to them being held, they, Madam Speaker, have defeated oversight. They, Madam Speaker, are being hypocritical and trying to mislead the public. Because oversight, Madam Speaker, is not merely or only or singularly on the fiduciary matters, not merely on the budgetary matters, not merely on the financial matters, but there are policies and programs for which the government has committed to in its budget, for which the government would have presented to the public in their manifestos, programs, policies and programs that are of great importance. But there is no alignment of interest for the opposition to hold the government to account, to bring those programs to fruition, hence the government gets the benefit.
The PAAC is one of 10 sessional committees of Parliament and is among those which, since 2008, have been chaired by opposition MPs as mandated by former Prime Minister Bruce Golding. It has the task of monitoring spending by all government ministries, departments and agencies. Dogs are said to be man's best friend. They are kept as pets and home security guards. However, some unmuzzled dogs are known to cause their owners anxious moments and huge medical bills when they escape the confines of their home and inflict bites on persons who pose no threat to their owners. In 2019, the nation was horrified when a video surfaced of a teacher of the St. Richard's Primary School being mauled by pit bulls. The attack left her hospitalized with critical injuries. The dog attacks are not only on people. In some cases, livestock fall victim to ferocious dogs. The new bill seeks to repeal the Dogs Liability for Injuries Act, which was passed in 1877. The act in its current form does not allow the courts to punish the owners of dangerous dogs. Marlon Samuels has more in this report.
The proposed amendments to the Dogs Liability for Attacks Act encourage dog owners to manage and control their dogs. The owner of a dog, as identified by the bill, refers to whoever has responsibility for the dog at the time of the attack. The amendment introduces criminal liability in addition to the civil remedy that previously existed. It means dog owners can be prosecuted if any of the offenses set out in the bill has been committed, even if the victim does not sue.
This bill is not intended to frighten or penalize dog owners. It is meant to increase the awareness of dog owners of the importance of keeping and caring of their dogs under their control. There have been, over the years, Madam Speaker, too many cases of debilitating injury and death caused by attacking dogs. The harrowing ordeal endured by the most recent victims up in Stone Hill area, all over, Madam Speaker, has made the issue impatient of a resolution.
On Tuesday, September 29, Justice Minister Delroy Chuck outlined to Parliament the main features of the proposed amendments.
If the dog chases someone on the road and the person is able to escape but is not bitten, that doesn't mean that the person has not suffered from fear of being bitten. And in such circumstances, it should still be a criminal offense. And that is what the Act provides for, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, injury is also defined to mean death, disease, or any mental or physical impairment. Perhaps the most important definition, Madam Speaker, is that of owner. It is the person who is the owner who will be liable. It is construed very widely so that the person or persons who live at the premises where the dog is kept and managed will be presumed to be the owner. And if the dog is placed under a person's care and custody at the time of the attack, that person is also treated as the owner.
In public places, the dog must be either muzzled or kept on a leash. It's important to note that the Act does not cover attacks on private property.
This is because the Occupiers Liability Act places liability on the occupier or occupiers of premises for any injury suffered by a person who the occupier permits to be on the premises. Clause 7 sets out the defenses that an accused person may put forward to avoid liability. So if your dog attacks a person because you were being attacked yourself by that person, you will not be liable. It is a normal form of self-defense. So in that case, the dog attacked to save you from harm. A person can also avoid liability if they can show that they were not the owner of the dog at the time of the attack, or where the dog attacked someone who was trespassing on their property. Clause 8 sets out the penalties that may be applied if a person is convicted of an offense. The penalties consist of monetary fines or imprisonment and will vary if the matter is tried summarily in the parish court or in the circuit court.
For the news on PBCJ, I am Marlon Samuels.
Tourism Minister Edmund Bartlett has been inducted into the International Tourism Hall of Heroes for his wide-ranging expertise and accomplishments in tourism. He was one of 16 tourism leaders from across the globe to receive the honor conferred during a virtual ceremony on World Tourism Day 2020. Minister Bartlett says an adaptive tourism sector will be required to take account of its current and future economic, social, political and environmental impacts and the needs of visitors while fortifying its own capacity for risk management and resilience. Minister Bartlett is a member of Rebuilding Travel, a group of tourism leaders from 119 countries formed to help the industry navigate the COVID-19 fallout. Former chairman of the All-Ireland Jamaica Cane Farmers Association and veteran agriculturalist Alan Rickards died on Tuesday, September 29. Mr. Rickards, who had reportedly been ailing for some time, was 79 years old. He spent time championing and educating Jamaicans about much-needed changes in Jamaica's sugar industry, the best way to market it, as well as the importance of structures within the industry.
There's a Sugar Industry Authority, which is a regulatory body, within which lies the Sugar Industry Research Institute. This is the body that ensures, on behalf of the government, that this vital industry is run in a manner that is beneficial to the country and the people of this country and the economy of this country. This is in the face of the fact that we have an industry now that is once again totally privatized. It has been through the stages of private ownership, back to government, back to private ownership, and therefore the regulatory body is even more important than before.
The outspoken former presenter of the Sugar, Hair and Now Agricultural series was never afraid to ask a hard question or hold responsible parties to account.
The financing is going to be important. I really want to see the Development Bank of Jamaica be called upon to create a window in the People's Cooperative Bank.
Don't draw my tongue
to
on DBJ.
provide
Don't draw
funding.
my tongue
I know.
when it comes to agriculture.
We need more fund.
Double-digit interest for agriculture.
No, single digits. We need to
work.
see those rates going down as a part of the strategy to stimulate growth.
Mr. Rickards believed farmers needed incentives to farm in a way that leaves a healthy soil for future generations and demanded that more be done to protect Jamaica's agriculture industry.
Of course you know that residing in the same ministry is the bureaucracy that deals with requests from those who would wish to import agricultural produce. At one and the same time, that in that same ministry is the body that would wish protection from that importation.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting.
No. Interesting. I think we need to look at it proactively as being an opportunity to be able to balance these competing claims within the same province. And we have to have the voice that will be strong enough to insist that if we are going to grow what we eat and eat what we grow, we are going to have a situation in which we have to be allowed the same or more comprehensive protection.
Renewed lockdown restrictions in some oil-producing countries have been having a seesaw effect on global demand for oil. For the latest look at that market and other financial indicators, we join host Gabriel Thompson for the Business Report.
In Tuesday's trading session, the JSE Combined Index declined by 70 points to close at under 400,000 units. Overall market activity resulted from trading in 83 stocks, of which 27 advanced, 40 declined, and 16 traded firm. The Junior Market Index declined by 27 points to close at under 3,000 units. Stocks advanced for 1834 Investments Limited, AMG Packaging and Paper Company, and Barita Investments Limited. Stocks declined for Access Financial Services, Berger Paints Jamaica, and Blue Power Group Limited. Trading firm were 138 Student Living Jamaica, Caribbean Producers Jamaica, and Carreras Limited. Pulse Investments Limited was the volume leader with 2.1 million units, followed by Wigton Wind Farm Limited ordinary shares with just over 600,000 units, and Supreme Ventures Limited with over 500,000 units. Now for the foreign exchange. The US dollar on Tuesday, September 29, ended trading at $142.10. The Canadian dollar sold for an average $107.33. The pound sterling traded for $184.56, and the euro ended trading at $168. Oil prices fell for a second day on Wednesday as rising coronavirus cases prompted concerns about further restrictions on global economic activity that could curb fuel demand. Brent crude futures dropped 63 cents to $40.40 a barrel. West Texas Intermediate crude futures slid 50 cents to settle at $38.79 a barrel. The benchmarks fell more than 3% on Tuesday as global COVID-19 cases passed 1 million, having doubled in 3 months. And that's it for this edition of the Business Report on PBCJ. I'm Gabrielle Thompson.
There is a call for more Jamaicans to give blood to the country's blood bank. Pediatric hematologist oncologist Dr. Michelle Reese-Mills says shortage of blood can delay treatment of children diagnosed with childhood cancer. We hear more about the issue and learn about childhood cancer in this episode of Living Healthy.
Childhood cancer is recognized by the gold ribbon, not the pink one. That's for breast cancer awareness. There is a difference between childhood cancer and adult cancer. Pediatric hematologist oncologist at the University Hospital of the West Indies, Dr. Michelle Reese-Mills, explains.
We speak about cancers that occur in children under 19 years of age. In some references may say, strictly speaking, children under 15 years of age. And the important distinction is the difference in the types of cancers as well that you get in children versus adults. The common ones that we tend to see in children are blood cancers such as leukemias. You have other cancers such as lymphomas, which some people might refer to these lumps and bumps that they see, or what people call the waxen panel. You have brain tumors that occur frequently as well, and then you have what we call other solid tumors such as kidney cancers, or commonly a Wilms tumor, and you have a whole host of others that occur, bone tumors, etc.
The symptoms of childhood cancer will vary. The key is to be observant. Listen to your child and be open with your child's doctor.
You would want to look to see if your child is suddenly becoming more pale than usual, just lacking energy, having evidence of bleeding or bruising. So stuff that's unusual and persistent. The sudden development of headaches, which may be severe, accompanied by vomiting, happening sometimes late at night. If you see that your child no longer is balancing well, or there are changes in the eyes, vision being an issue. If you were to actually take like a photograph and you notice one eye actually looking, you're not getting that red reflex that you get at times. You can have pain such as joint pain, bony pain, children limping, persistent fevers, weight loss that you can't explain, painless lumps that you're seeing around the neck and in other parts of the body. A lump in the tummy as well. Sometimes a common one, what we call Wilms tumor, the cancer of the kidney, for the younger child, parents might notice that they're bathing the child and then they suddenly look at the tummy, one side appears higher, or they're feeling an unusual mass in the belly. And we do want people to be more sensitive to it because we find that if parents are not suspicious, they might wait weeks before taking them to the doctor. If doctors are not suspicious, then they wait weeks before referring them to the appropriate place, and then months will go by. And when the children actually do present to, say, a hospital, then they might have moved from a stage 1 to a stage 3 or 4, and it's much more complicated to treat, which is why it's important for people to know about the signs and symptoms.
Can childhood cancer be prevented?
Cancers, especially in children, are the result of a lot of genetic changes, and that's why we say that childhood cancers are frequently not preventable. So parents shouldn't blame themselves if a child actually develops a cancer. There's little that they probably could have done to prevent it. You looking out for signs and taking children for regular health checks would be a good thing.
Even though we cannot prevent it, we can all help to treat it. One way is to give blood.
A lot of the chemotherapy drugs that we give are actually toxic to the children's bone marrow. So as much as, we give the chemotherapy to kill the cancer cells, it affects the normal cells for a short time. So their blood counts will go low, they're more susceptible to bleeding, and one of the ways in which we as a nation can assist is blood donation. I think, we all have to realize that these children are in the race of their life. It's not a sprint, it's a marathon. They get tired along the way, and one way we can really build them up or just carry them along the way is to actually give blood. Because at times, it takes a while for their bodies to regenerate and to come back. And so having blood is a huge help. So I'm encouraging everybody to go out and donate, not just during September as Childhood Cancer Awareness Month, but consider becoming a regular blood donor. I think a lot of times I feel like people are very disconnected from this process, and it's only when their relatives are sick that they give blood. But you will have standing on the other side and being nervous when a child's counts are so low and they need blood and there's nothing in the blood bank. I am just almost begging people to go out and become regular blood donors. So please think about it, and this is a serious appeal on my part.
Most instances of childhood cancer can be successfully treated if it is diagnosed early enough. But some children have died because their parents failed to pick up on early warning signs. Watch out for continued unexplained weight loss, headaches, often with early morning vomiting, increased swelling or persistent pain in the bones, joints, backs, and legs.
We go to news from the region. In Trinidad and Tobago, Minister of Tourism, Culture and the Arts, Randall Mitchell, says he's working to ensure that the Twin Islands Carnival remains at the forefront of the global carnival landscape. This follows an announcement by Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley that Carnival 2021 is cancelled. More in this report.
In a release, Minister Mitchell said over the past few weeks, the ministry has been in discussions with key carnival stakeholders and the National Carnival Commission. During these meetings, he said it was clear that there is need for Trinidad and Tobago to retain its place on the international carnival calendar to ensure future economic and social benefits and to solidify our position as the home of carnival.
In sports, West Indies will tour New Zealand at year-end for 2 tests and 3 2020 internationals, their second series this year following the outbreak of the deadly novel corona pandemic. Cricket West Indies CII confirmed on Monday the Caribbean side would undertake the November 27 to December 15 series after New Zealand Cricket received the thumbs up from their government to host the tour. CII President Ricky Skerritt has welcomed the assignment. New Zealand has been one of the most successful nations in managing the pandemic, with just under 1,500 confirmed infections and 25 deaths. And that's our package. Join us again tomorrow, same time, same place, for more news and sports right here on PBCJ, the People's Station.